position. I think everybody in Chicago would love to see that happen, but when you look at it from a salary cap standpoint, I don't know. It would be a tough one to swallow, but ultimately, would they be better off having Gold than Parkey? Probably, because like we saw with a Blair Walsh and Daniel Carlson, I feel like after that missed kick, after him going on network television and getting, criticized by the front office for doing it, you wonder how the dynamic's going to be there. So I wouldn't be surprised if they move on from Parkey, but to invest in both him and Robbie Gold, it's a little too much for me to swallow.
Agreed. Hey, let's wrap up the show by talking a little Super Bowl. And again, if you'd like to advertise the program, you can reach the talknorthpodcast@gmail.com. Listenership on this show and across the network have grown dramatically over the last year, and we do appreciate all of our listeners and all of our sponsors. So I'll let you be the host here. You get to grill me about Super Bowl life.
Well, I'm curious this year. Do you have a chance to talk to Cordero Patterson or John Sullivan, two guys that are in the Super Bowl after spending time with the Vikings?
Well, we're actually one of the rare newspapers that sends multiple people to the Super Bowl every year. So it's Mark Craig and me down here, and Mark has been here all week. I came in on Wednesday, got here probably Wednesday afternoon. So Mark kind of handled those stories for us. I saw those guys, but Mark really had the conversations with them. They're both in good moods, to tell you that. Sullivan, he defied the odds coming back from a back injury and making a go of it with a very good team with the Rams. And Patterson's in a great mood and just kind of, thrilled to be here. Often that's a cliche. In this case, I think it's actually true. I think he's at a Super Bowl with the New England Patriots, and of course, the obvious question is, did the Vikings not use him properly? And there are two aspects to the answer. A, the Patriots probably are using Patterson better than the Vikings did. But B, the Patriots also have, they get to use Patterson as this wild card. They can give him 0 snaps and nobody really makes a big deal out of it, right? They can just have him be a kick returner. They can give him 5 carries from the backfield and everybody goes, oh, Belichick's a genius. With the Vikings, because of what they spent to get him, a first-round pick, and saying that they wanted to turn him into a receiver, every game he didn't catch a pass, it was a big deal. With the Patriots, anything he offers is a bonus, so it's a completely different context.
Well, and I remember, too, that I feel like Rick Spielman thought he got one over on the Patriots when he took Patterson, because I think he was convinced that the Patriots were going to take Patterson in the draft. And, ultimately, to me, there's no denying that he is an incredible athlete and football player. But when you get a guy early in his career that really has only played 1 year of major college football, and the hope is that you can develop him into being a real NFL receiver. And I still am not convinced that he's a real NFL receiver. I think he is a gadget player. And so I do think that early in his career, you want to try to get him to be that receiver. And maybe you feel like you're putting too much on his plate if you're trying to coach him all the time to be a receiver and then sometimes asking him to be in the backfield and take carries and all that. So I think it's really, in this case, situational for me. I think the Patriots are using him the way they should because they can and because of where he is in his career, where it's been pretty well established that he's not your usual NFL receiver who's going to pick up all the intricacies of route running and be a great guy that way. And I really find it interesting that here he is at the Super Bowl, and when he was with the Vikings and in my discussions with him, I feel like he was much more about the celebrity life than he was grinding it out, watching tape, trying to get better. And now he can enjoy the celebrity life being at the Super Bowl. And I think he's probably taking pretty good advantage of that.
I would think so. Yes. One of the angles down here has been, there have been two. It's been a pretty boring week in terms of interviews. Both teams are pretty, cautious. The two things that have jumped out is, Julian Edelman kind of saying, wearing the bet against us T-shirts. He's trying to turn the Patriots into an underdog, which is ridiculous, and kind of funny. And the other thing was that there were some Rams, players early in the week who are willing to say, hey, Brady at this age isn't the same quarterback. And I just think that's crazy for the Rams to take that approach.
Even if they believe it.
Yeah.
Say it.
Especially if they believe it.
Yeah. It's really bad form to, call out. Really, I don't think anybody has any questions at this point, the greatest quarterback of all time. I mean, just with what he's done in the playoffs, how often he's been there. I saw Gil Brandt had a tweet that was really interesting that, Brady has been in the Super Bowl 9 of his 17 years, which is a better percentage, like a better on base percentage than some of the greatest baseball players in the world. And he compared to all these different percentages, better completion percentage than Terry Bradshaw had in his career. It's amazing that anybody would want to call out Tom Brady being in decline, whether they believe that's true or not. But hey, speaking of T-shirts, did you happen to see Sean Payton with apparently? Yes. Yeah, I didn't get a look at it. Did you look at it? Was it actually the clown Roger Goodell clown T-shirt that he had on underneath another shirt? Or
well, nobody can be sure. It just looks like it. And listen, the Saints. Breeze was just on TV today saying, hey, Roger Goodell could have addressed all this anytime in the last 2 weeks. He waits until the Super Bowl press conference where he just kind of glosses over everything. It's a very controlled press conference. Listen, Goodell is not the NFL commissioner. He's not a power broker. He's not smart. He's not a good leader. He's just the guy the owners send out there to take abuse. That's the whole relationship here. They pay him a lot of money, so he takes all the abuse so the owners don't have to. That's all he does.
And he didn't do it very well. I watched.
No, he's not good at it.
Press conference, and the answers that he gave left nothing for people to really draw any conclusions. And maybe that was his complete intent, but it didn't matter what the question was, whether it was about officiating, Super Bowl placements, Colin Kaepernick, any of that. His answers were so dry that it was infuriating that there were no answers to be had from a billion-dollar business that, people have legitimate questions about.
Absolutely. And, I wrote about the Kaepernick thing. Listen, I understand that NFL teams they hate distractions. They hate ticking off part of their fan base. I don't really agree with their approach in those ways, but I understand, at least there's some logic and some business rationale to the idea that, hey, we're not going to sign Colin Kaepernick. But to pretend that there are like better quarterbacks out there, the teams were trying to do their best to win by not signing him is ridiculous when you see some of the quarterbacks who have played the last 3 years. You cannot pretend this is a football decision.
Well, it's not a talent decision. I would put it that way. I think a lot of NFL teams would have big concerns about, is it going to hurt their bottom line if they sign him, and people that are opposed to his approach, or is it going to disrupt a locker room or anything like that? And that probably depends on what kind of a locker room you have there. But, I completely agree with you. I mean, at worst, he's a very solid backup quarterback. And at best, he might be a okay starter for a team. So, to act like, this is simply he's not talented enough. And I don't, Goodell never said that, but he didn't say anything. Yeah. So, right. I just had a big issue with the way Goodell handled this press conference.
He's an idiot. Let's buzz through some fun prop bets and wrap up the show. Will Adam Levine be wearing a hat when he begins his halftime show performance?
I say no, because what I've seen of him on The Voice, when I've occasionally buzzed through that show, he likes to change up his hair color. So why would you put a hat on top of that?
See, that's why we have you on the show for Adam Levine analysis, because I didn't know any of that. Will greatest of all time be mentioned in the broadcast?
I got to believe so, don't you? I mean, yes. And a lot of these things on the prop bets are, during the actual game. They don't count pregame. They don't count halftime. Even so, though, I think, Tony Romo will have a hard time going without saying that Tom Brady or Bill Belichick are the greatest of all time.
Here's one of the easiest ones. Will Belichick and McVay's age gap be mentioned during the game broadcast? It's got to be, right?
Well, it won't. Not only will it be mentioned probably a few times, but they will have a graphic on it. I can almost guarantee that. And there's also one on the age gap between Brady and Jared Goff. And so, I definitely think both those things are going to happen.
Will Giselle be shown on TV?
Well, and this is during the broadcast. So, once the game ends, if they show her celebrating, I don't think that would actually count. The over-under is set at 1.5 times that she's showing. I would go over on this one. I think she'll be showing 2 to 3 times.
I would agree with that. As long as she's sitting, the only thing is, what if she's sitting in a part of like the suite where the camera really can't get to her? I'm just not sure how the logistics would work.
They always try to get the owners and the coordinators in the boxes, and even if it's not a great view because of reflection off the glass, they still keep it there. So I think she's showing 2 or 3 times no matter where she is.
3 more. Will the Rams-Saints pass interference call, non-pass interference call, be showed during the game?
This one I think is really interesting, the most interesting prop bet in my mind, because in general I would say yes. For sure you're going to show that. You're going to talk about it. How did these teams get here? Well, the Rams got here a lot to do because of that call. However, because the networks are partners with the league, I wonder how much pressure the league tries to put on the networks to not bring that up, to not talk about it, to not show a replay of it. I still think it does happen, though, despite what the NFL probably wants.
I agree. Will Romostradamus be said during the live broadcast?
That's kind of a weird name to me because I get
it doesn't exactly flow off the tongue.
It does not. And I think as corny as Jim Nantz can be at times, I think he'll stay away from that. I think he'll reference Tony's greatness at being able to predict plays, but I don't know that he'll actually call him Romostradamus. Yeah.
Last one, and thanks again to all our listeners, all our sponsors. Tony Romo says, here we go. Over 2.5, under 2.5.
I think it's going to go over. He loves that catchphrase, and it's when he gets really excited about the situation and the point in the game. And I could see him using it at the very beginning of the game. I could see him using it at halftime, and I can definitely see him using it, in the fourth quarter as things are getting dicey or exciting. So I think he goes over on this one.
I agree. I'm going to run out and not place all these bets right now.